If your shoulders, neck, and upper back mobility is limited and you've been doing a bunch of thoracic or T-spine mobility drills, you're working on thoracic extension because it's going to help you stay more upright and it's going to make your arms go overhead, I got news for you. You've been duped. And the reason why these T-spine mobility drills don't work is because they're glossing over a key ingredient necessary to maximize your shoulder mobility, your neck mobility, and your upper body rotation. So take your T-spine mobility drills and your foam rollers and throw them in the trash. I need it for later. I'm going to show you that key ingredient that's missing in your T-spine mobility drills and what you should do instead. In fact, when you look at this, I feel like the thoracic spine is missing a key thing. It's missing ribs. When you're moving your arms around, turning your head, or rotating your torso, the rib cage also has to move. And the amount of air going in specific areas of the rib cage will change depending on what action you're doing. And most people gloss over this when they're doing thoracic spine mobility drills. When you go overhead, the rib cage has to expand in all directions. This allows the shoulder blade to move along the ribs. If you're just doing thoracic extension drills, you don't necessarily change the shape of the rib cage. You'll notice that my lower ribs are flaring up and down as I do the movement. So I'm not really changing the relative expansion that should happen in the rib cage. Instead, I'm likely levering at only a few segments in the thoracolumbar junction. That's not going to improve my ability to raise my arms overhead. So what should you do instead? There's 4 things you have to do. The first is increase the front to back dimensions of the rib cage. If I can make the rib cage bigger or expand A to P, anterior to posterior, it becomes more cylindrical. A more cylindrical rib cage has an easier time rotating, and it creates room for the shoulder blades to slide and glide. When you're on your side, research shows the rib cage gets bigger front to back. We're going to enhance this with a foam roller. Foam roller is going to be on the middle third of the rib cage. Bottom leg, not quite parallel to the foam roller, just a little shy. Top foot's going to be on the front of the ankle. You're not going to side bend over the foam roller, and you're not going to be up like this. You want your torso to be close to parallel to the ground. Silent in through the nose. Exhale, melt into the foam roller. Take your top arm. You're gonna have it in this position right here, making sure your head is parallel to the ground, eyes looking forward. Silently breathe in through the nose. Soft exhale, and as you do so, you're gonna do the gentlest reach towards the wall. Try 3 to 5 sets of 5 breaths with that move 2 times per day. I would do it for a couple weeks before moving on to the next move so you can get the most out of it. Once you've done that, you want to drive airflow posteriorly or into the backside of the rib cage. When the backside expands, it fills the concave shape of the shoulder blade. When the shoulder blade is filled with ribs in the front, it has an easier time sliding and gliding when you move your arm overhead. I would do a high depth rack squat or sandbag squat depending on what equipment you have. When I have my arm at this low angle, my body has to shift and expand backwards in the opposite direction. That opposite direction is posteriorly and superiorly. When you hold a high depth squat in that position, it helps facilitate that expansion even further because you're mirroring the same action in the pelvis. Grab 2 kettlebells or a sandbag. Don't make them super heavy. You're gonna rest them like so your arm is less than 60 degrees of shoulder flexion. You're gonna look straight ahead. Feet are gonna be flat on this ramp here. Silent in through the nose. Exhale. Knees forward, butt down. Stay heavy on the heels, but make sure the front of the foot stays flat. You're gonna hold and breathe quietly in through the nose, soft exhale through the mouth. You'll wanna do 5 sets of 5 breaths with that move 2 times per day. And then you have to drive front side expansion or the pump handle. This is necessary for you to internally rotate. You're going to need some internal rotation, especially if you're moving heavy loads. An easy way to drive anterior expansion is by hanging from a bar. How's it hanging? Good. Cool. You see, when you hang from a bar, my arms are a little bit more internally rotated. Internal rotation is associated with expansion in the front of the chest. I also have the shoulder blade ever so slightly pulled back. I'm not forcing it, it's just kind of happening. And because of those factors, air will be more biased to go into the front of the body. Hold this position, silent in through the nose, soft exhale through the mouth, just like we did with the other moves. Just make sure your eyes continue to look forward. You're gonna do 5 sets of 5 breaths with this 2 times per day. Once you've expanded those areas, you then want to drive active rotation through the thorax. When your thorax rotates, you create posterior expansion on the side you're rotating towards and anterior expansion away. So if I'm rotating to the left, I must expand the left posterior and the right anterior. Now, do you just like get in this position and try to breathe into one part of the rib cage and then breathe into the other? No. Rotational drills of the spine are useful because when your spine rotates, you'll actually have to expand in order for the rotation to happen. Moves such as a cable press and using various angles, I might start with a high to low and then go with a more horizontal base press, can be useful for improving those rotational capabilities, especially if you throw breathing into the mix. The keys I want you to think about with this are exhaling as you reach, inhale at the end position, and then make sure your head stays straight on. When your head stays looking forward, that helps drive more expansion into the uppermost segments of the rib cage. With any of these moves, I would do 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps, a few times a week, again, for like 2 to 4 weeks before moving on to the finisher. And the last piece is being able to rotate your thorax under load. But how are you gonna do that? Generally, when you're lifting heavy weights, you kinda wanna be stiff. Well, you might not be creating the rotation through the torso, but you could through your neck. When you turn your head, you actually drive rotation all the way down to the 5th thoracic vertebrae, or T5. So driving head turns when you're pressing overhead can be a way to improve rotation while getting stronger. Start looking towards, because that's gonna get me some upper back expansion. Take a breath of air in through the nose. Then on the exhale, as you press up and overhead, you're gonna need internal rotation and expansion in the front. For that, I'll look away. Inhale, look towards. Exhale, look away. You can load this a variety of ways, but if you're just getting used to it, start with 2 to 3 sets in the 8 to 12 rep range, and then from there, you can add weight and reduce the number of reps. Now, you might be feeling really good in the torso and the shoulders, but maybe you've been doing T-spine mobility drills because your neck's really tight. Is the solution to stretch it? I don't think so. And in fact, I talk about what you should do in this video right here, why stretching doesn't work, and what you should do instead.